Hey, this is Eric with Sky Kingdom Games, and in this video we will be covering the battle phase. The battle phase begins when you draw a skull chip from the event bag while exploring, or when you are forced into battle by a narrative event. When a skull chip is drawn from the event bag, determine the enemies the guards will fight using the enemy index in the index's book. Narrative events will list the enemies in the campaign book. When the battle phase begins, retrieve the necessary AI decks and enemy cards and set them up in the enemy dashboards. The enemy cards and their AI cards can be found in the field events, enemies, and abilities card boxes. Each enemy has their own divider to easily locate their cards. Enemies marked in red text are ambushes. We will cover what happens during an ambush later in this video. The star value tells you which enemy card to use. Enemy cards can be 1 to 4 stars, and the star value usually equals the chapter you're in during each campaign. Higher star enemies are stronger and have higher stats. The Roman numeral after the enemy name indicates the order the enemy is placed on their enemy dashboard. Enemy dashboards are numbered 1 to 4. Unless otherwise stated, enemies enter battle following the order of their enemy slots, 1 to 4. Each enemy has an enemy card and a deck of 8 AI cards. Shuffle the AI deck of each enemy in battle separately and place each deck on their enemy dashboard, along with the enemy card. Set the enemy stats for their health, attack, and defense using red cubes, and action points using gray cubes. Enemy dashboards are normally set up on the table like the following example, but you may arrange them however you prefer as long as the enemy turn order is followed from 1 to 4. The enemy placement in the following example is called the enemy grid. The front row of the battlefield in the enemy grid consists of enemies in slot 1 and slot 2, and the back row consists of the enemies in slot 3 and slot 4. Guards may only target enemies in the front row of the battlefield unless an ability says otherwise. Once enemy targets in slot 1 and slot 2 have been defeated, meaning their HP reaches 0, enemies in slot 3 and slot 4 can be targeted. An ability that states attack all enemies would target enemies in all slots. Once all of the enemies and their AI decks have been placed on their enemy dashboards, the battle phase may begin. Let's take a moment and show an example of how this works. The guards are currently in the middle of Chapter 1 of Campaign 1 on Node 7. Let's move them to Node 1. We now immediately draw a chip from the event bag. We've drawn the double skull chip, so we look in the indexes book to see what enemies we will battle against at this location. We can see that the guards will face a Timberwolf in slot 1 and a Timberwolf in slot 2 in the battle phase. We first grab the enemy cards and the enemy AI cards from the field event, enemies, and ability card box and place the cards on the enemy dashboards. Since the enemy index states that the enemies are in slot 1 and slot 2, we grab the slot 1 and 2 dashboards. We can leave the slot 3 and 4 dashboards in the box as they are not needed. Next, we place the enemy cards in the space noted by the skull icon. After we shuffle the enemy AI decks, we place the AI decks face down in the space marked with a gear. Finally, we place cubes in the dashboards to set their starting stats as listed on their enemy cards. Red cubes are used for health, attack, and defense, and gray cubes are used for action points. Now that the enemies have been placed on their enemy dashboards, the battle phase may begin. Now, let's take a look at how a round of battle works. A member of the guard always goes first unless the encounter or event specifies that the battle is an ambush. We will cover what happens during an ambush later in this video. The order in which the guards take their turn is important, as the order in which abilities activate and attacks are done can change the way enemies behave with their AI cards. The players choose which guard starts first. Here's the list of steps that occur during the guard's turn. Number 1. Check each equipped accessory for bonuses before each round. Trigger any effects if available. Some accessories have effects which only trigger one time before the battle begins. This occurs even if the battle is an ambush. Number 2. Discard all active evasion chips and blue cubes on both of the guards. Green evasion chips are returned to the supply, whereas purple evasion chips are moved to that guard's discard area of the guard dashboard. Number 3. Choose a guard to activate. Number 4. If the guard's bag is empty, refill it with all of the chips that are in the discard area on the guard's ability dashboard. If the chip bag is not empty, you may still choose to do so by losing 1 health. Number 5. Without looking, draw chips one at a time from the guard's bag. The number of chips drawn is equal to the amount of active action points at the start of the turn. Resolve any positive or negative chips as each one is drawn, and place them in the positive or negative status chip area of the guard's ability dashboard. Number 6. The next actions may be taken in any order or not at all. Activate guard ability cards by paying the necessary resource cost. When you pay the cost of an ability, you place the required chips on the ability card being activated and exhaust the action points required to perform that ability. You may activate as many ability cards as you can pay the resource cost for. A guard ability card cannot be activated more than once per round unless it is activated by a guard's keyword effect or by another ability. The effect of the guard ability card is listed on the bottom of the card. Guard ability cards have a primary effect and a keyword effect. Keyword effects have special conditions to activate. Activate stonebound ability cards using ready speaking stone gems. When you activate a stonebound ability card, place the matching stone from its ready slot onto the stonebound ability card. Stonebound ability cards can only be activated by a gem in the ready slot of the same Roman numeral the stonebound ability card is on. Each stonebound ability card has a matching stone of the same color that goes in the same numbered slot. Stonebound ability cards typically have very powerful effects. Because of this, there is a 1-turn cooldown to use stonebound ability cards. The gem will be moved to the exhausted slot during the cleanup phase, and it will remain in the exhausted slot for a whole turn before becoming ready again. Perform a standard attack on a single enemy target by paying the chip cost. To perform the attack, place the required chips on the guard's weapon card. Each guard may only perform 1 standard attack per turn. You can pay the cost of a single chip in a variety of ways. Any chip with the correct icon can be used to pay the cost. You can also combine 2 of one type of icon to represent one of the other. Activate an accessory if required resources are met. Use an equipped item. If you want to keep the battle flowing, you may flip the item over to signify that it has been used and then return it to the supply once the battle is over. Remember, each guard may only use the item in the equipped item slot during battle. Number 7. Activate the other guard and repeat steps 4 to 6. Number 8. Refresh all exhausted action points for both guards back to active. Number 9. place the aggro chip on the guard that last performed an attack on an enemy target, even if it missed or was blocked. Once both guards have taken their turn, the enemies take their turn. Here's the steps on how to activate enemies each round. Number 1. Discard any active evasion chips and blue cubes on enemies and return them to the supply. Number 2. Activate the enemy in slot 1. Number 3. Draw an AI card from the enemy's face-down deck. If no cards can be drawn, shuffle the discarded AI cards and place them face down back in the slot, then proceed with the draw. Number 4. Resolve the actions on the enemy AI card. The enemy AI card is resolved in order from top to bottom, resolving all actions that can be performed. The enemy actions on an AI card are separated by dividers. Some enemies can draw more AI cards and will continue to perform abilities as long as they have the action points for it. The enemy turn ceases once you reach the words "End turn." Number 5. Activate the remaining enemies in order, slot 2, 3, and then 4. Repeat steps 3 to 4 for each enemy. And finally, number 6. Refresh exhausted action points for all enemies. Once the guards and enemies have taken their turns, a round is completed and the cleanup phase begins. Here's the steps that take place during the cleanup phase. Number 1. Discard all chips from enemies except evasion chips and return them to the supply. Number 2. Discard all chips from guard ability cards and weapon cards. Black and purple chips are moved to the discard area on the respective guard's ability dashboard. Green chips return to the supply. Flip over cards that indicate that they flip after being activated. Number 3. Remove all chips from the positive and negative chip areas on guard ability dashboards. Purple chips are moved to the discard area on the guard ability dashboards. Green and red chips are returned to the supply. Number 4. Move exhausted Speaking Stone gems to ready slots, then active Speaking Stone gems to exhausted slots. The battle will end in either victory or defeat. The guards are victorious when all enemies on the battlefield have a health value of 0. Collect the rewards from each enemy card. Rewards may include Lux Essence, Syll, enemy drops, or various equipment. Record any gained Lux Essence in the Lux Dual Dial and any gained Syll in the Syll Dual Dial. Gained enemy drop cards can be stored in any of the guard's open satchel slots or dropped if not desired. If a guard already has the enemy drop card in their satchel slot, flip the card to the new quantity held. Since the max quantity is 4, any enemy drops acquired beyond that are dropped. If the battle was victorious, but one of the guards has fallen, which means they have a health value of 0, no rewards are lost, and the bags remain as is. Revive the fallen guard and set their health to 1. If the health of both guards reaches 0 before that of their enemies, the guards are defeated. In this case, return the guard's miniature or bust chips to the last save point, which is the point that's marked with the campfire chip, or the Fort Istra courtyard. Restore the guard's health back to 20, which is their starting health value, and remove all green, red, and negative purple chips from their chip bags. Both guards lose all the cards in their satchel slots except for the tool cards, which include the wood chopping axe, pickaxe, and the fishing pole. All Syll in the Syll Dual Dial is lost. Isofar is a very dangerous place, and sometimes you may feel the need to run away from an enemy encounter. When you decide to run from battle, all members of the guard forfeit their turn to take the retreat action instead. This action can be taken at the start of a round only. all enemies still take their turns, after which the cleanup phase is performed and the battle is over. No rewards are gained for retreating from an encounter. The guards may never retreat from ambushes or narrative events. Players may continue the exploration phase after retreating. If one guard retreats and the other has fallen, revive the fallen guard with 1 health and continue the exploration phase. In an ambush encounter, the enemy goes first and you cannot retreat from battle. Once all enemies have taken their turn, the round completes and the battle order returns to normal, with the guards going first. Ambush encounters are indicated with red text in the enemy index, found in the index's book. All encounters that happen on blue nodes during the exploration phase are ambushes, and sometimes ambushes may occur during a narrative event. The campaign books will indicate when a battle phase is an ambush. That concludes our overview of the battle phase in the Isofarian Guard. In the next video, we will cover the narrative phase.